I've just had to do a final check. Make sure the Reddit boys are not hidden anywhere. The Reddit boys are after me. I'm going incognito. If anybody asks if you know where I am, shh, mum's a word. Right, what's it all about, Al? Well, another day, another Soundcore hype machine. This one, of course, is the... Always got to remember, take your glasses off, you can't see a bloody thing, Al. Okay, I will. There is the Soundcore Motion Boom. No, you see, they've been dropping the Motion name. Right, it looks like what's going on is they're going to reserve the Motion name for more serious, refined listeners, and they're going the Boom series for. I'm not saying you're not audiophiles, and I'm not saying you're not Reddit class. What I'm saying is this is aimed at someone who wants a boom, 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 and not so much for critical listening. What we got out? We've got the Soundcore Boom V2 Plus. It's the follow-up to the was the Motion Boom Plus. As you can see, what I'm saying is they're restructuring. Remember, Soundcore used to be that company, gave us good value speakers. They used to under-promise, over-deliver. About the last 18 months or so, in fact, since the Motion Boom Plus, it's kind of been over-promise, under-deliver. Just my opinion. Disclaimer, a lot of you are telling me you're very happy with Soundcore speakers. Here's the clue. I can only tell you my own personal opinion. I can give you some facts, like it's in black, and you probably still argue because it's got lights on the side, and we'll get to that as well. But I can give you the facts, and I can give you my subjective opinion, and you can like it or not. A lot of you don't, but even more of you do. That's fine. Remember, I'm the guy who used to say, work for Soundcore. I'm not really a fanboy of anything, but if I was going to be a fanboy of anything, it was Soundcore. I'm just a little bit disappointed in some of the marketing. So become a marketing company when it used to be a speaker company. What we got? We've got the Motion Boom V2 Plus. It's the follow-up to the Motion Boom. It's part of the restructuring of the names. Been a lot of claims for this one. Oh, what a shocker. What a surprise. What are the claims on this one? Oh, right. That's the whole point of me sitting down here. Well, why didn't you have it to hand immediately? You're not wrong. Right, let's go for it. Yeah. Right, what they're claiming is, the first thing that struck me was, they keep saying 1.6 more times bass. I even asked them, what does that mean? Measured how? What does that mean? Nobody could tell me. I've said it a few times. Nobody said out. This is what 1.6 times the bass means. And we found out. I don't know if I've written it down here where I found it from, but I did find in very small print somewhere in their marketing, and I can forget exactly where it was. What they're talking about is the power output. So this is now headlined at 140 watts, and it used to be 100 watts. And what they call Bass Up 2.0 technology is a method by which you press the so-called bass up button to do something amazing in the algorithm and give you more bass than it was ever really there, in that the drivers were ever really capable of. But actually what they're referring to is the fact that if you turn that off, you get less power output. How they're doing that, what's going on, we don't know. I could take a guess at it. Go on now. All right, I will admit it. But here's the point. It's not so much a bass boost, but it is a bass boost, but there's more power. What does that mean they can do? Oh, hang on a second. If you don't have so much bass to drive, you get more battery life. So it does appear, and this may be centered around the fact that it seems all these companies now just want to go for 24 hours, 24 hours. They didn't go for 24 hours. Even Soundcore did not claim 24 hours. They claim 20 hours. If you look at the small print, that's with bass off and the lights off, and that's at 50%. But I don't think any of you buying something that's called Boom is going to play it with the bass up off. So pretty meaningless, but for them, it does mean in the marketing, they can have a headlines, and I've seen, all over the marketing, it does say 20 hours playtime. You've really got to search for the little bit of the disclaimer to where that's 20 hours comes from. I did say, alluded to, it's a big word, yes. I did say, I can have a guess at what is going on in terms of why it's 100 watts, 140 watts, because a lot of it makes no sense. I can only, in a real world, if they turn the gain down a little bit, it's going to sound a bit cleaner, isn't it? We've seen that with the mini rigs. Low gain, high gain. But we've actually got just 100 watts. I think it's the bass boost as we've always had. You just EQ it, have more bass. And if they and what's the clever is low gain, or just the amplifier's not putting out. Here's the thing. I don't want to extend it too long, she said, because I'll get onto that in a minute, she said. In fact, we'll do that when I get to the frequency response, and I'll tell you why it's a bit nonsensical. Let's just go through the headlines. They'll tell you 30 watts power delivery. You should know that. The W-King X20 we've already had does 60 watts. Yes, 30 watts is good because we're used to the days where they were all 10 watts. Unless they were, via USB-C, unless they were a mains powered or, had a brick adapter. So, yeah, that's nice. 30 watts is pretty decent. It's not class leading. And then you'll see it says power bank, and you may in your head be thinking, well, that's 30 watts and I can charge it 30 watts. No, if you use this power bank functionality, that will still be limited to the old 5 volts, 2 amps. That's 10 watts. So 10 watts for output, 30 watts input with the right charger. Woofers. I've even seen trusted reviews. Trusted reviews. They said, what they say, Al? Well, I was going to put that in my conclusion, but I've already mentioned it. I'll have to say it now. They said, great bass with twin subwoofers. These people know what subwoofers are. Why would they say that? I'm not going to say it, but you may have an idea why they would say subwoofers. We do know it said subwoofer in the marketing, but they know what a subwoofer is. And if they didn't, if they went on Wikipedia, it says a subwoofer is a loudspeaker designed to produce low-pitched audio frequencies known as bass and sub-bass. Not the mids. This doesn't have a subwoofer. This has 2 woofers, 2 tweeters. Those woofers are playing the mids as well as the low notes. So while, yes, you could say if it was just playing low notes, it's a subwoofer, technically. If it's playing the mids, it ain't a subwoofer, is it? It's not dedicated to... So, trusted reviews know that. I'll just leave you with that thought. But where was I in the beginning? I'm trying to... I better start timing this. I don't know, was it? Yeah, okay. Because it's going to get to another hour. Nobody's going to... No, say on Reddit, well, 40 minutes. Already complaining 40 minutes on Reddit was too long to watch. And yes, and I'm stretching it out again by saying it. Okay, right. I'm going to really attempt now to not waffle. But some of you say you like the waffling, so I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place. It sounds quite interesting, doesn't it? Right. So, two woofers, 2 tweeters, no subwoofer, 4.5-inch woofers, 0.75-inch tweeters. I haven't measured it. Right, so a lot of people saying, got great. I've seen the reviews. But not on my channel. They're all saying great build quality. I don't know what the parameters are. I can tell you this is all plastic and plastic grill. We had, well, if that's not metal, it feels like metal and it's properly hardened plastic. This just feels like cheap plastic. The other thing that I notice is, this isn't IP67, this is IPX7. So it's not dust proof, it's drop it in 1 meter of water for 30 minutes proof. Look, it's very hard to test how acoustically transparent the grills are. Some people would tell you, do the blow test. One thing I can tell you is, that's far more transparent. You can see the drivers well through that than that. So that appears to be not only plastic, but not as acoustically transparent as that. Given it's plastic and it's not some special material, I would say, strongly guess, that's not a great grill. What else? They claim 40 hertz to 20 kilohertz. They don't tell us plus or minus anything. So they might as well do the Sony thing and say 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Because without telling you what the plus or minus range is, which should be plus or minus 3 dB, or if it's just plus 6 dB, basically a 6 decibel range normally. I'm pretty sure, and we'll find out in a minute, it ain't 40 hertz to 20 kilohertz, but that's what they're saying. They say it will charge in 3 hours. Obviously, if you're using it at its full potential, 30 watts with the supported charger. We talked about the playtime, IPX thingamajig. It's Bluetooth 5.3. They say it's got a Bluetooth range of 100 meters. We've talked about the 140 watts, 100 watts. But here's the thing, I said I'm going to talk about it when I get to frequency response, but I'm reading it now. I'll tell you my thoughts. Why this doesn't make sense to me is that speaker draws... The amp delivers what the speaker is asking for. It's only going to be at maximum volume. You're going to get 140 watts or 100 watts. So it doesn't really matter at 50% if it's switching from 140 watts to 100 watts, if that's what it's doing magically. They're calling it an outdoor speaker. They're marketing it as an outdoor speaker. All over the marketing, it's saying outdoors. So does that mean you can't use it indoors? Tell me. Yeah, it's got the Pro EQ, that's great. So should we do the app quickly? If you didn't know, and I don't have my phone here, why don't you go get your phone out, and then I can show you the app. Okay, I will. Really quickly, you must have seen it a million times, but there is the Boom 2 Plus in the app. You can obviously switch on your bass. You can do most of the functions both in the app and on the speaker itself, of course, which involves also changing the lights and having different light shows, turning bass up on and off. But probably the most useful thing is the equalizer. Soundcore Signature is what they call default mode, and you can have that with bass up or bass off, and as we know, you get a bit more power. Is there more power? It does play a bit louder if you literally play that. See, that's the other thing, the advantage of simply switching between 100 watts and 140 watts, if that's what they're doing when you do that. When you press that on and you're simply getting more power, or it's simply going louder, it will sound more bassy without them doing anything else. So the fact that it's EQ to have more bass, plus it goes louder, will make you think it's got even more punch thanks to Bass 2.0 TM. Then maybe it should really have claim. I can't remember what I just said. So Soundcore. So the most probably thing that we want to know just quickly, it's got the app, and whether you're a beginner or advanced, there's something there for you. So beginner will go into all sliders set to 0. And if you're really, really brave, or don't have to be brave, just want to muck about with it, it's a good way to learn what different frequencies do, by the way. But the sort of parametric, or they call it parametric, I know it's quite limited, but it is class leading. Oh, you always knocking Soundcore? No. Soundcore, class leading in-app EQ. Why do I personally like in-app EQ? Well, because if you push your speaker too much, you may brick it. You can damage it if you boost, they're already boosted. All these speakers all come with the S-Peak already boosted. To work within safe limits, you need to use the in-app EQ. It's already designed to work with that speaker. That's why I like that. So we've got the parametric, play with it. It's still fiddly to me. I've forgotten even how it works, but click the dots to expand. And there you go. That's how you expand it. And that's the end. Are you sure? Yeah. So we talked about the app early. We talked about it's a proper stereo. A lot of you still think 2 tweeters and 1 woofer is stereo. It ain't. It means your woofer's getting mono and the tweeters are getting. It's bad enough down mixing stereo. Let alone when you actually mix, at least when you've got a speaker that is actually mono, we know the mix, has been mixed in a way that will take into account the down mixing to mono. But when you've got stereo tweeters and mono woofer, they don't really take that into account. These are very niche circumstances. So yeah, you've got problems. It's got Partycast 2.0. That means it will play with not only with all other Partycast 2.0 speakers, but also Partycast 1 in both mono mode, party mode, and also stereo mode. Partycast 2 is pretty nifty. I did say the strap. We got a strap. So I said, I don't think the build quality is great. It's all plastic, feels plastic, and even the grill feels very plastic. But hey, it's up to you to have an opinion. You may think it's great because it says Soundcore on the back. Boom 2 Plus, I might as well show you that. Well, we got the backside out. Not a lot going on there. A lot of these W-King type speakers and all that give you a million different features. Instrument inputs, mic inputs, able to play music straight off a flash card and all that. We've got an auxiliary input at least, and we've got USB-C two-way input there, input, output. But what I'm saying was, even the strap to me, that don't feel like metal. That feels like plastic, and it's not even a proper buckle. To me, that's fiddly. You've got to stick it in here, she said, and then put that over the end like that, and all that's... Look, it's nice to have a strap, isn't it? And have that option. To me, this screams cheap bit, I have to say. That's what it says to me. But a lot of you disagree. We'll always disagree. It's audio. Audio has always been, maybe it's part of the fun, but people strongly disagree. It's weird that something is designed just to give us pleasure. Now, I'm talking about audio. It brings so many arguments and so many falls out, don't it? The 3 of you on Reddit that don't seem to have got the memo. But anyway, yeah, so I talked about that. I'll show you my personal frequency response measurements. Soundcore signature mode, bass up, on. Very, very linear volume steps, but also very, very linear tuning. There is a drop in relative bass as we go up, and then quite a drop off at 100%. But there isn't a massive adjustment at lower volumes compared to the rest of the volume steps. but you wouldn't need to because bass is very heavily boosted. If we look at where the mids and the highs are, they're around here. Look how massive from 300 Hz down relatively that bass is boosted. Even at 80%, although there's a relative drop-off in the bass, it's still heavily boosted. And what's more, there's actually a drop-off at the high end relative to the mids. So this is looking very warm, but probably quite dull in terms of the high end with a lack of clarity. Bass up 2.0, we are told, is all about 100 watts versus 140 watts. And as you can see, with bass off, you do get less overall volume at each volume step, but it's only a decibel difference. And the big difference really is the roll-off in that bass. And the roll-off is really for mid-bass mostly. We've still got some boosted upper bass. And if we overlay them, make that volume adjustment, we see that is the only difference. 300 Hz down, it's a bass cut rather than just a bass boost when you hit the bass up button. Of course, we've got custom EQ in the app. And as you can see, custom EQ mirrors Soundcore signature sound, both bass up and bass off. So custom with bass off is exactly the same as Soundcore signature bass off, and the same for signature mode versus custom mode with bass on. It's exactly the same. We've got presets. This is the balance mode, and it's basically something in between bass on and bass off. But the mids and the highs are identical. Treble boost is a bit of a tilt EQ. We've got a loss of bass. We've got an increase in the highs. Voice mode is basically pushing mids and dropping the highs a little bit. So you can see there's a 1 dB, not massive, is it? There's a 1 dB difference between having bass up on and bass up off. Bass off is a bass cut. It's not that you've got something magical when you do bass up. Hey, maybe the most balanced one is for finally the one they call balanced EQ, because it's in between bass off, the bass cut, and the bass up, which is a bass boost. Balanced, okay. There's an issue there because you'll see that quite extended down to 50 Hertz, not the 40 Hertz, but certainly down to 50 Hertz in my measurements. If you don't know, you should know bass is measured separately, or should be measured separately to the mids and the highs and get spliced in. Why? Well, because bass has massive waves, and you've got to be a mile off to actually hear the actual mid, between the peak and the trough, to hear the bass as it should be. So you can't measure it. So I do show an extension there. Well, I'm going to tell you that I don't get in the real world. So my audio recordings are real world simulation. It's not binaural, but it takes into account how your ears hear. And you'll see there's an issue there, and we'll get onto that after I play the first bit. So bass on, bass off. We already know it's simply a bass cut, but if you want to listen to it, by all means have a listen. So yeah, I did boost it. I did do the 1 dB difference because that's the only difference. The EQ is the same, and in the real world, just bump it up slightly and they'll be matched. Now, you may have seen my last video where Soundcore recommend this speaker is compared to the Motion Boom Plus and the Boombox 3. That may be an own goal. I don't know why they said that, but I have an idea why they said that. But anyway, I have a listen at 40%.
do what I want. I do what I want. I do what I want. I do what I want. Hear me now. Watch me go. Lose control. Is this real? All I feel. Break the signs. Every time, let's be real, be real, be real. I do what I want. 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 Hear me now. I do what I want.
So all the speakers overlaid against the original track. You can see how massive that boost in the bass is for the Boom 2 compared to the Motion Boom Plus, which has a more natural bass and then can match the bass of the Boom 2 about 55 hertz and down. The Boombox 3, well, it's the only one here that can do deep bass. 65 hertz and down, it's game over in terms of deep bass for the Boombox 3, but all of these speakers have issues elsewhere, whether it's the 700 hertz peak for the Boombox 3 or the high-end peak around the 8.5 kilohertz mark for the Motion Boom Plus, or simply the lack of clarity due to a very heavy upper bass and mid bass push on the Boom 2. So here's my issue. Like you saw my little spectrum analysis graph of the actual track. It's not a frequency response. So you know the result, and you heard the result. The result is there is a lack of deep bass on this speaker. Well, how can that be? We know the passives go down to 50 hertz. I know because I've measured the woofer rolls off at 70 hertz. And that's what we're getting. In the real world listening, we're getting a 70 hertz, 75 hertz roll off. Our ears are not capturing. I don't hear it. You're telling me you don't hear it. We're not capturing the 50 hertz the passive radiator is putting out. There's an issue here with the design of the passive radiator, in my personal opinion. It's not radiating out. When you do a measurement properly on the passives, you do get, it is playing down 50 hertz. But here's the thing, look at this passive radiator. I don't know if you can see it there. The LED, in an attempt to get LED lights there and a nice stripy pattern, this appears to have just been stuck on the end of the passive radiator. There's not a lot of care here in optimizing that passive radiator. They've just stuck this on, in my personal opinion. And I haven't attempted, I paid for this, by the way. Soundcore don't send me speakers anymore. I paid for this, and by the way, I didn't want to rip it off because A, I couldn't send it back if I intend to do that, or sell it on at some point on eBay if I decide it's not going to be a reference speaker. So I haven't pulled it off, but it's clearly stuck on. And it's not radiating out. You're not getting a sense, in my personal opinion. A lot of people will tell you, in fact, I have to tell you, everybody has agreed with what I'm hearing. It's all mid-bass. It's all mid-bass and upper bass, and there's no sense of deeper bass. That's why I think it's an own goal, comparing this to the Boombox 3. You've got no chance of knocking that for deep bass. That's what this speaker does. Yeah, it might go louder, and it might have more mid-bass, and for a lot of them, it seems to me, Soundcore clearly don't know, because it's marketing people are telling us all this, they don't know the deep bass from their mid-bass. It's a mid-bass box. You may well love that. If you do, job done. What have I written in my notes in case I've glossed over something? I've said, anyway, against the Boom Plus, but against the Motion Boom Plus, well, yes, it totally dominates the bass, but it's very boosted mid-bass. To me, not very pleasant. And that bass, it's so boosted, and I think I mentioned this in the frequency response, you can see, while it appears to be sort of level between the mids and highs, those highs are actually muted and slightly rolled off. You've got this massive, you know, we're used to at least having a V-shape. When you have that massive bass boost, you normally at least get a boosted high. I'm not saying I like all that, because then you don't have any mids. But there's no attempt to balance that. Look, like it or loathe it, they've got a 700 hertz peak there, which would balance out some of the bass. They're doing nothing here. To me, I gotta say, this doesn't sound good to me. This sounds muddy, closed in, but what you do get is a big mid-bass push. They seem to literally just geared this to get as much bass out of it as possible, and of course, to do that, you don't want to be driving the mids and highs. If you just have relatively less mids and bass, if you have relatively less mids and highs, you've already got more bass without having to push it so much. But it's both. It's relatively less mids and bass. Clearly, you can see that. They haven't tuned any highs into this. And It's already, and they've boosted the mid bass and the upper bass. So it's just a boomy. I mean, I used to get called Mr. Don't seem to get it called much anymore, Mr. Boomy Bass. If that was true, I'd love that. But anyway, oh, you made me get into the picture that I'm not a great fan. As I said, I've got my opinions on Soundcore, but it doesn't affect what I say about their speakers. Yeah, I didn't like that because that does distort horribly. That was not too bad, as long as you don't push it too much. Love the Motion Plus, still do. I thought that the Boom 2 had value, but for me there's the problem with the stereo and the mono in one, and I still prefer the sound signature. Doesn't go as loud, but I do prefer the Motion Boom. This one, I could never listen to this. So yeah, the Motion Boom Plus comes off sounding leaner and cleaner and more natural. It doesn't have the bass, but for me personally, I'd pick that up every day. I wasn't a fan of that either. For me, that marked the change in the Soundcore tuning when that came out. But at least that has a place. It's got a great ratio of weight to loudness and bass. So every time you pick it up, it surprises you when you look at that speaker, how light it is and how loud it goes and how much bass you get out of it. Yep, not a speaker that I pick up for my personal pleasure, but it is a speaker with value. I don't see the value here in it. Well, maybe we'll get to it at the end. Yeah, and this, I've just written muddy, warmer, lack of definition. And against the Boombox 3, I mean, it's game over, isn't it? It just sounds so much better. You've got that lovely deep bass. Yes, it's got a scooped out, sculpted bass. You don't have the upper bass there. But for me, I'm not saying that's for critical listening, but you know, that's the one they all take aim at. And it's more open, it sounds nicer, it's more listenable, it's got more definite. It's just, to me, this one knocked this out. That's 40%. You've basically got what I'm saying. It's not sounding good, but let's try it at about 70% volume.
Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know, see you later. Sometimes I just wanna be a hater. Gotta wash down the top 40s with a chaser. Your voice starts feeling like a waiter. Scraping my mind and gets the cheese grater. Before you go, sir, you have to sign a waiver. That's alright, I'm aware of the danger. You wanna get away, you better get in line. Won't go another day of wasting any time. I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. Got no filter, I got no filter. 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 Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know, see you later. Sometimes I just wanna be a hater. Gotta wash down the top 40s with a chaser. Your voice starts feeling like a waiter. Scraping my mind and gets the cheese grater. Before you go, sir, you have to sign a waiver. That's alright, I'm aware of the danger. You wanna get away, you better get in line. Won't go another day of wasting any time. I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. Got no filter, I got no filter. 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 No filter, I got no filter.
Massive difference in the bass area between Boom 2 and Boombox 3. Boombox 3, again, completely dominating deeper bass from 65 Hz and down, but it does have a lack of upper bass, exactly where we've got a very boosted bass for the Boom 2, giving them quite a different sound in the bass. We've got the 700 Hz peak, of course, for the Boombox 3. That's problematic as you go up to these higher volumes. And we also have more of a high-end push on the Boombox 3, which doesn't really gel well with its 700 Hz peak against the Motion Boom Plus. Well, it's much closer now in terms of that bass, but still the Boom 2 with its very pushed mids and upper bass does dominate, but the Motion Boom Plus does have the deeper bass, 70 Hz and down. not by much, but it does have more deep bass. Kind of similar elsewhere in the mids, except for around the 2 kilohertz regions where we have the peak for the Motion Boom Plus. And then again at the high end, we've got the big peak around the 8.5 kilohertz mark for the Motion Boom Plus, where it's a bit more natural on the Boom 2 Plus, but because of its pushed bass, it's still going to sound a bit muffled. So almost total opposites in the way they deliver bass between the Boom 2 Plus and the JBL Boombox 3. At these volumes, the 700 hertz peak becomes problematic to me. Not going to be so much of a problem outdoors, and they say that's an outdoor speaker. But the bass is opposites. Loads, dollops, loads, almost to the point where we're going to have to ration it for everybody else. There's none left to go around. So much mid bass and upper bass, and that's what it does. But they haven't tuned anything else. It doesn't even sound stereo. It sounds narrow, mono, closed in, muddy. I mean, honestly, to me, we went through like 10 tunings. I don't know how many tunings are still out there for the Motion X600. At least 10 at one point. But I've given up following them, and you're not reporting back to me anymore. Looks like you've given up as well. I'm sure there's going to be retunes on that because it's so muddy. And I'm already getting people telling me that. Look, I've still got people saying it's fantastic. So it's always going to be about mixed opinions, and that's what we call audio. So it has a stronger high end, it's more defined, and if you didn't get it by now, I like that, I don't like that. I'm not saying I listen to that. That 700 hertz is problematic to me. It's fixed in the Wi-Fi edition. Yeah, and then against the Motion Boom Plus. Again, it just sounds more natural. I'm not saying it is natural, I'm saying it sounds more natural, sounds leaner, cleaner, more open, still got enough bass, just hasn't got the huge bass, the mid bass of, look, buy this, label it, mid bass machine. If that's all you want, buy it, or get a subwoofer. There's not much I can say. I'm just going to be knocking it. You've got the message by now. You've had a look at the graphs, and you've had a listen, and seen probably, I'm sure, a load of other reviews. So you get an overview of what's going on. Those are the two they wanted it compared to. Can be a bit of an own goal saying the Boombox 3 because it simply sounds better. I think they were saying it's like a third of the price, and it really isn't. In fact, it's not even half the price. I'll get onto that later. But what else? What else can we do? They're saying out there it's a best. Obviously, they've been told to say the best speaker under $400. One channel, I'm not going to name, you may know it, has called it the best speaker under $500. That's really sad to me because I really like the guy who does that channel. And yes, he's commented on my comments and says he seems to hand on heart believe what he's saying, but that means he hasn't really listened to enough speakers. You can't be saying it's not even the best speaker at $200. Anyway, let's do it against the usual suspects that it should be compared to. Love it or loathe it, and I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the, because I know all the Reddit boys picked up, oh, we're going to comment again. No, that's fine. Yeah. Love it or loathe it. This is my pound for pound champ. It's still my pound for pound champ. That must be your favourite speaker. No, I told you my Go Plus Play 3 is my favourite speaker, but a lot of you are telling me you've got issues with the auto tuning, which can't be turned off on the Go Plus Play 3. Not been an issue for me. But for you, you're saying certain rooms, you've lost bass altogether. So there's no perfect speaker out there. You can EQ, there are hidden EQs, Google that, on the Go Plus Play 3. But for me, in my world, sounds pretty balanced. I really like it. For me, it's the nicest thing I can listen to at the moment. You should know, about $300, $350 is about the limit of my budgets. I haven't listened to all those high-end ones out there. And you can see why these companies do not want to send to me. Some of them still do. Tribit being one of them, and that's got nothing to do with why I'm saying it's pound for pound champion. If you follow the channel long enough, you'll know why I said that. And indeed, I've just said Helmut Garden was my favourite speaker. So yeah, about 200 quid in it. It's about the same price or cheaper. And this is the big boy. It is a big old bugger. Oh, my hernia's gone, my back's gone. I'm off to the doctor. It's a big bugger. And there goes me out. We'll pick it up in the adverts. But here's the thing, so they're claiming, it's the greatest boombox, under $400, under $500, you know who you are. I love you, mate, but you're wrong. And this is, I think, just a little bit more, this is like $225. I'm gonna do the specs at the end, and it's about $220. So it's nearly the same price as that, which is about, well, actually, it's cheaper, isn't it? I think in dollars that would be, because you can't get that in the UK. So $225, I think, and that's $250 at the moment. I'm sure it's going to have to get a lot cheaper than that, unless they really do some magic with a new firmware. But guys, these are the comparisons. the same price, about the same size, the same price, a boombox. Here's my comparisons, again, with exactly the same track. Why doing the same track 4 times out? Because it makes it easier for me. Yes, to compare them easily, because if I don't do it that way, I still have to do all the same tracks as well, and it doubles all my work. Yeah, I made it quicker for myself, all right?
Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know, see you later. Sometimes I just wanna be a hater. Gotta wash down the top 40s with a chaser. Your voice starts feeling like a waiter, scraping my mind against a cheese grater. Before you go, sir, you have to sign a waiver. That's alright, I'm aware of the danger. You wanna get away, you better get in line. Won't go another day of wasting any time. I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. Got no filter, I got no filter. 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 Hey man, can I get a favor? Yeah, sure, I know, see you later. Sometimes I just wanna be a hater. Gotta wash down the top 40s with a chaser. Your voice starts feeling like a waiter, scraping my mind against a cheese grater. Before you go, sir, you have to sign a waiver. That's alright, I'm aware of the danger. You wanna get away, you better get in line. Won't go another day of wasting any time. I've got a lot to say, can't hold it in this time. Got no filter, I got no filter. 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 No filter, I got no filter.
Stormbox Blast is really winning out the deep bass sound in terms of these two speakers because it's dominating from 80 hertz and down, and it's a big difference in that deep bass compared to the Boom 2 Plus. There's enough likeness between these two speakers in the mids and the bass and sort of the highs to suggest that Boom 2 Plus may have actually been tuned somewhat in line with the Stormbox Blast. The problem is it can't do the deep bass, but the problem for the Stormbox Blast, of course, is it's 5.5 kilohertz dip, and then it's pushed high end to make up for some of that lack of highs. In terms of that bass, it's a similar story as we saw against the Boombox 3, almost opposites in the very heavily pushed mid and upper bass for the Boom 2 Plus, and the lack of upper bass for the X20 to bring out more of its deep bass. So it does dominate anyway, about 75 hertz and down on the X20, but you'll hear more of it because of its lack of upper bass. And then very different in the mids because we've got two big peaks for the X20, 700 hertz Boombox 3 like, and then 1.2 kilohertz and another boost at the high end. So sounding and looking very, very different. Yeah, I didn't do the lower volume test because I've got life to get on with, and I'm too busy replying to all my haters on Reddit. Al, why are you giving them airtime? I know you're right. It just amuses me. But anyway, get on with it, Al. All right, I certainly will. What did I just say? Why? Yeah, well, I didn't do it at low volume because I'm trying to fit it all in. She said. Okay, so they're so similar in many ways. Looking at those, the frequency response, not the frequency, the spectrum analysis of the actual recorded track. But although they're saying compare it to the Boombox 3, I can understand why they didn't say compare it to the Blast, because that would be a fair test, wouldn't it? And this is cheaper. It looks like it's tuned along the same lines as the Blast, and it may appear to be more even at the high end. But the highs and the mids are just lost because of the mid bass. There may well be a fantastic tuning in there, and I'm just doing the default tuning. And I'm waiting for your custom EQ. I'll get to it if and when. The problem with custom EQ is, first of all, nobody's, whatever I do, and it's not just me, it's other channels that do custom EQs as well. Whatever you do, nobody's happy. Some people are not going to be happy. So you're stuck between the rock and hard place. I said that before, and I'm saying it again, because you do the custom, well, that's not fair, you've improved it. How can it not be fair? You've had to improve it. If you're saying it's improved, then there's a problem, isn't there? And then if you don't, and then when it sounds like default, when if you don't, and then when you do it default, well, you know you can make it sound better. Why didn't you? Got a life. Right, so the point was, I forgot. Yeah, it looks like it's tuned along the same lines. It looks like it's got a better high end, but it's completely lost because of the pushed mids, mid bass, and that's the big difference, is the push mid bass. And I know, though this looks awful on when you see it on a graph at the 5.5 kilohertz dip, it doesn't sound that awful, and they push the highs and it kind of smothers over it. And don't forget, depending on that gap, your ears smooth over it anyway. So it may look like a massive dip, but if it's a narrow dip, you're not that sensitive to it, and I have to say, in the real world, it sounds really, really nice. It makes it sound smoother to an extent, and you may say, well, it's got lack of clarity, but by the way, it's got a custom EQ. I've got a custom EQ on IG, or Instagram. And by the way, that's what I use, but I'm doing this the fairest way I think possible in one video, and it's still like going to be 2 hours long. So I'm doing its default X-Bass bass heavy mode. They're saying it's a boombox, so it should be a bass heavy X-Bass mode, and it's got the lights on the front, so they ain't had to mess with the passive radiators. Lovely firm passive radiators. Stuck on, ends stuck on. Hollow sounding. It's, in my opinion, that has killed its deep bass. The redesign the passive radiators, it may reinvent that speaker. Almost anything's going to win for me against this, but the Blast does beat that. It's not the best speaker under $500, and it's not even, in my opinion, it's all about my opinion. This is cheap. This is about 160, and that's about 250 in pounds. We'll get to the specs at the end. Anyway, so yeah, I prefer my Blast over that. And then that comes to the big boy, the big bugger. Yes, it's effing heavy, but hey, it's cheaper in dollars, and it's got more deep bass. What else did I say about it? Overall, and so when you're making these claims about bass, overall, there isn't that much between them in overall bass, but the difference is where that bass is, mid and upper, and that's in deeper bass. You don't, you get a sense of, that's that lack, they've taken aim at the Boombox 3, properly taken aim of it, so they've done the same sculpted down the mid bass, down the upper bass, brings out a sense of deeper bass anyway, and then they've actually got, it's actually playing that deeper bass quite strongly. You get a nice sense of deeper bass. Yes, the highs are a bit of a mess. Yes, this is not a speaker for audiophiles or anyone close to thinking they're an audiophile. But as a boombox, that delivers. The W-King, the Viking, you tell me, X20 or D20 in other places, and all that. And let's get straight on to the maximum volume testing.
Eyes got away, rocks now dead, nothing left to do. No one gets away, got to face the truth, nights far away. Tell me what you want, here's what you got. Humans every day, more than we have ever seen. Rocks now dead, don't ask why. Eyes got away, rocks now dead, nothing left to do. No one gets away, got to face the truth, nights far away. Tell me what you want. Now dead, nothing left to do. No one gets away, got to face the truth.
So it's a big win, I think, for the X20. It is the loudest here in the orange line. No, it doesn't have the most bass. In fact, it has the least upper bass, but it does hold on to its deeper bass, and it does have oomph in the mids and the highs. It's not particularly balanced, but if you're going loud and you want oomph, and the X20 is the winner. In terms of bass, well, it is the Boom 2 Plus. That's what it does. It gives you a mid-upper bass, and that's basically all you're going to hear. It's going to sound quite muffled, but it will go loud, albeit still nearly 2.5 decibels quieter overall than the X20, but actually has the least deep bass of all these speakers. And that includes the Motion Boom Plus, although overall it's about 4 dB louder than the Motion Boom Plus, which is huge. Problem for the Boombox 3, it's completely dominated by its 700 Hz peak, and that makes it sound quite nasty. The Stormbox Blast, well, in terms of bass, it holds up really well. In fact, it's almost got the most deep bass. It's only 45 Hz and down the Boombox 3 takes over, but you're not going to hear any of that anyway. But it is quite bass dominant. It's going to sound a bit dull and muted. In terms of loudness, it's about 1.5 decibels quieter than the Boom 2 Plus. So nothing sounds particularly great here or balanced, but if it's about going loud and still having a party, it's the X20 that's going to do that. I forgot to say earlier, but another thing that struck me, my frequency response measurements were quite different to real world listening measurements, if you like. I can't really explain that, other than obviously tons of processing going on these speakers, and that's what happens. Yeah, so if it reminds me of, who was the other one? I can't remember. Was it a W-King speaker? I think it's a past W-King where I said it and only really made sense at maximum volume. This is another one of those things. So if it's about the outdoor, you're going as loud as possible and you still want bass, it did deliver. We'll call it the Postman because it certainly delivered on its promise. It has the most overall bass, but it's all mid-bass. If that's what you want, job done. But it don't sound good. It sounds muddy and messy and narrow and closed in. For me, the winner here is the W-King X20 that has almost as much overall bass, loads more deep bass, and significantly more, almost 3 decibels, isn't it? 2.5 decibels more volume. But yeah, it's going to, you come in and you say, well, look at the size of it and all that. Well, they haven't said anything about against them. They want that against the Boombox 3. It's not that much bigger, but it is. Yeah, but it's probably I'm probably taking aim at the best speaker under $400 claim, best speaker under $500 claim. You know who you are. I won't name you, but best speaker it's a meaningless stat. But if they literally wanted to say that, and then the marketing is all about outdoor loads of bass. Cheaper, more bass. I don't know. Boombox 3, for me, unlistenable because that 700 Hz peak works at lower volumes but becomes problematic at louder volumes. Yes, you get about 1 decibel or more, but it doesn't go significantly louder when you plug it in. But if you do want to plug it into mains, it will go a tad louder. But the Blast held up pretty well. The only one really out of it now is the Motion Boom Plus. Why did you put it on the table? Well, I ain't got much room left. I've got all these big boys there. Should we bring it out? Should we bring it out? Where am I going to put the Boombox 3 now? Because I've still got to do specs. Go on out, give it a go. All right, I will. In for a penny, in for tuppence. You didn't know I was going to say that, neither did I. So yeah, the only one that I would say is outgunned is the Motion Boom Plus, but otherwise holds up pretty well. So if it's simply the follow-up to the Motion Boom Plus, it's the Boom 2 Plus, obviously. We said they're clearly making a big differentiating line between the Motion line and the Boom line. I mean, after all these years, they've restructured it all and just made it more confusing, to be quite honest. Anyway, that's the follow-up to that one, and yeah, it goes loud and got more bass. But I'd listen to that all day long if the option was that or that. The specs, well, it'd take forever, but let's do a quick overview of the specs. In terms of the pricing, the Boombox today, when I checked, Amazon, £360, $400, and that compares to the Boom 2 Plus at £200, $250, and they're claiming, I think, at least half, and I think they were saying like a third of the price. Well, it's not even half the price. Half of 360 would be, wait, hang on a second, isn't it? Oh, no, is it? No, it's not, yeah. So half of 360 would be 180. No, it's not. Half of 360 would be 180, and that's £200 in the UK, so it's not even half the price. I've got the Boom 2 down here for some reason. Oh yeah, I was going to put it in, but look at the mess we already had. Okay. But the Soundcore Motion Boom Plus, well, you can see, so I'll let you, I'm not going to read out the Boom 2, but you can see how it compares. It's much smaller. It's a different beast altogether, the Boom 2 Plus. For me, it makes way more sense than this speaker does. The Stormbox Blast, 180 quid, $200, and you all the time I'm seeing 160 going off, but I'm just saying what I saw today. So it's the cheapest speaker on the table, apart from, of course, the Motion Boom Plus remains 140 quid, $140. Some ways still, I mean, it's grown on me a little bit from when I first heard it, and there's quite another one that's gone through lots of different tunings, but still, you know, not the warm sound signature that I personally like. But to me, it makes way more sense than some of the newest offerings that they're giving us. And the X20, not in the UK, but $225 cheaper. We said that before. Why did you say it again? I don't know. They all do multi-point, except for the X20 doesn't do multi-point. That's the problem. So the battery, I know that's something you often want to know about. Guys, the only figure that matters for capacity is watt hours. The Boombox 3 is basically a 70 watt hour battery. This is a 55, it's not even class leading battery, is it? 55 watt hour battery, 55 watt versus 70. Motion Boom Plus is not even that far behind, and it doesn't. You're going to get more battery life out of it because it doesn't have the push mid bass. That comes in with a 46 watt hour battery. Not even that much difference, is it? Hardly upgraded the battery. Got 71 watt hour battery, which is a decent old battery on the Blast. 111. That's a huge battery. 111. I don't even know. We say huge. They're not really that huge, and I don't even know why. They cheap out on the batteries. It's not even that expensive to stick one in. But 111 watt hour battery, that's a big old bugger. Battery, all Bluetooth 5.3. You should know they're all SBC, but the Boom 2 Plus and the Viking X, W-King, Wayne King, whatever I said it, W-King, I threw myself there. Right, and a lot of people wish they would do that as well. But anyway, enough about Reddit. Okay, so what was I saying? Yeah, it's a big battery. I was saying, wasn't it? Oh yeah, AAC. You can switch to SBC. I'm doing my testing AAC because those are the default modes, and you'd have to turn off HD audio every time to get it back to SBC. So, we talk about these other brands, these cheaper brands, or probably more value brands now. Soundcore used to be the value brand, giving us all the extra features that you quite like. So you can play off a flash card, separate your music. You can play off a USB dongle, your music. You've got a guitar input, the guitar. Well, so let's say an instrument input. You've got auxiliary inputs. You've got a mic input, I believe. They've all got power bank functionality. Only the Motion Boom Plus, the older one that's been replaced, apparently, I don't know if they're still going to actually replace it, because the other ones that are still on, like Motion Boom, still off for sale. You can't do phone calls on it. Yeah, there's a speaker that size, doesn't matter. Well, actually, it can be quite useful when you're outdoors and you're right next to the speaker and the phone calls are getting picked up on the speaker itself. No phone call functionality for the Boom 2 Plus. I know you love your power rating, so 140 watts at maximum. Why would you don't need to switch off 140 watts, at 50%, do you? Unless you're talking about, the gain difference. We don't know exactly how they're switching, but, it's, as you can see, it just goes a bit louder by a decibel anyway when you hit the bass up, and I think they probably like that because without doing anything else, it's going to sound more bassy. On battery, 136 watts rated for the Boombox 3, 180 watts if you stick the mains lead in. But remember, to go twice as loud, that's another 3 dB, you have to double the power. But to go twice the perceived loudness, you have to go 10 decibels. You can imagine, you can do the maths to how much more power. So 136 watts to 180 watts, 100 watts to 140 watts looks good on paper. In the real world, it's not really that significant. 80 watts was the rated for the Motion Boom Plus, 90 watts for the Stormbox Blast, 200 watts. They're the only one that say RMS. 200 watts RMS, although there's still question marks, but anyway, RMS 200 watts claim for the X20. Obviously the weights is really important here. You should know, I said, it's the weight to loudness and bass ratio that you'd buy this speaker for. You know, it doesn't sound awful, not for me. It sounds better than when it first came out because they've tinkered with the EQ, which they keep doing with these speakers, and they have to now because they never seem to get it right on release. But 2.4 kilos, 2.4 kilos versus 3.7 kilos now for the Boom 2 Plus. It's 6.7 kilos for the Boombox 3. It's 7.1 kilo, or other people are weighing it at 7. For me, I weighed at 7.1 kilo for the X20. The Blast is 5.5 kilos. Boom 2 Plus 3. So for me, if it's about weight to sound ratio and it's all about that, for me, the old Motion Boom Plus wins. If that didn't exist, then they'd have a bit more leeway to say for its weight and size, how loud it goes. But anyway, they're making a big play about that. You can drop this in water and it will float, and indeed it does, and that's very good. So you drop it in water, not only does it float, it'll float with the drivers up, and it's still usable. But the Tribit Stormbox Blast will also do that. And by the way, the X20 is also dustproof, as is the older Motion Boom Plus, dustproof. Newer Boom 2 Plus, not dustproof. And they're doing that while seemingly more acoustically transparent grill on it. So the Boombox 3 and the X20 are three-way designs. Not easy to get right, the two crossovers. I think there's a bit of a mess on the X20. Bit more right on the Boombox 3. And they've done that by having the tweeters straight over the mids, which is something you can do. You think it'll obscure it, but as long as you do it right and the distancing and the sizing is right, that's absolutely fine to do. They've all got tweeters and they've all got woofers, and woofers are not subwoofers. Marketing said subwoofer, trusted reviews say subwoofer. That's not a subwoofer because it's playing the mids on the woofers. In terms of the old latency, a tiny bit of lag on the Boom 2 Plus is 16 milliseconds, but no lag at all on the X20. In auxiliary, just to tell you, tiny bit of 16 milliseconds lag for the Boom 2 Plus in my testing. No lag on the X20, or the Blast, or the old Motion Boom Plus, and 25 milliseconds on the Boombox 3. But Bluetooth, which is what it's all about. Best here was the Blast, 66 milliseconds for me, very, very usable. My cutoff was 80 milliseconds, followed by the Boombox 3. Not too bad, but you'll notice the lip sync, 100 milliseconds. This is a test of streaming lip sync. It's not the strict Bluetooth latency of the actual speaker itself. I get 100 milliseconds of lip sync lag. 116 milliseconds for the old Motion Boom Plus, but 200 milliseconds is not good in AAC on the Boom 2 Plus, and the worst of the lot is the AAC again on the X20 at 266 milliseconds. So the big selling point for Soundcore is its class-leading app. It's not the only one with an app. It's the only one, though, that has a, let's call it parametric equalizer alongside a normal graphic equalizer. They all have app functionality, and they all do have custom EQ. I told you already why. For me, that's the way to go, why it makes more sense than a third-party EQ. It's only a 3-band slider on the Boombox 3. It's 9-band slider on all the others, except for the X20 got one more, although not really, because I just added a 30 hertz slider and it doesn't really do 30 hertz. Well, it's the same as the one above it. But anyway, claiming 10-band slider, 9-band sliders on the others. But anyway, so there you go. The big selling point, I can't knock Soundcore, is it's class leading. In fact, I had some notes. I actually wanted to go over it. I'm going to find out again. Right, just to finish off my conclusion, as though the video wasn't long enough. Anyway, I wrote down here, they will need to dramatically retune, I predict, this speaker. That's my prediction. They will have to dramatically reduce some of that mid-bass and will fiddle with the high end. They claim groundbreaking bass. It's not groundbreaking, but it does deliver dollops of mid-bass, even at maximum volume, and it goes quite loud. So on that score, I'll give them a pass. It does deliver. Whether you like it or not is another matter. They claim 40 hertz. It ain't. It's not doing 40 hertz. You might get 40 hertz if you do a. I know you love your single tone test going down. Can I hear it? There's so much wrong with that. I won't get into that. For me, that's nonsense. But I know you love it, and that's fair enough. They're claiming 40 hertz. It doesn't. You won't hear 40 hertz on this speaker. You won't even hear the 50 hertz that the passive radiator is actually playing down to. There's a problem here with what they've done with the passive radiators. So I've written down, they did claim a third of the price of the Boombox 3. In fact, it's not even half the price. So that wasn't true. And then I went on about the Trusted Reviews City review. What they say, the Anker Boom 2 Plus stands out as one of the largest and most powerful Bluetooth speakers in its price range. So if we're talking about price range, it was one of the largest and most powerful. Yeah, okay, fair enough. But they say pleasant bassy sound signature. No, it's not. It's not a pleasant bassy. It's a bassy sound signature. It's not pleasant. It says they say impressive lighting features. Okay, I'll leave you with that one. It's got great bass response with twin subwoofers. They're actually saying it's got twin subwoofers. You know, you just have to throw your head up, and people will read that and believe it. It's you know. Not enough people are watching my channel. They say it delivers all the thumps, thuds and rumbles. It's such a technical review. And that's it. That's the end of the video. It's been another long one. That's what we do. They tell me 40 minutes is too long for anyone to be expected to sit through it. I don't expect anyone to sit through it. Every time someone says I've watched the whole of your video, I'm absolutely staggered, and I applaud you and I thank you, because it'd be nice to know somebody has watched it all. I haven't wasted 5 hours of my time sitting here. You know, obviously you see it after the edit. Sometimes I'm cutting off. Dominic knows. My what was it? Was it the last one? My last video, I had a target to go out for. It was an hour and a half long. I had to actually lost half of it in edit. Anyway, I thank you for watching. A lot of you, the majority of you, are huge supporters to me. And don't worry, I ain't going nowhere. I'm not a scaredy cat, and I'm not all the things I'm being called on Reddit. It's actually only three and a half. I thank you for watching, and I will see you again.
What the f was that?
It comes from China.
My speaker's got deep bass, balanced mids, and a bright high.
Yes, mine sounds exactly the same.